Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. GM released their second quarter earnings, and in that report, they showed us what their plans are for their EV segment for the next few years. And in today's video, I want to review those plans and see if they're actually realistic. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing to highlight is that in that report, GM kicked off by highlighting all their new EV models that are launching here in the next couple of quarters. Here's their pickup truck, their brand new luxury EV sedan, another version of their pickup truck, and their cheaper SUVs and their van. This was the first page of the earnings report, which I think tries to send a message to investors that says, hey, GM is super focused on EVs and we're really here to make an impact. From a highlight perspective for the second quarter, GM actually had pretty good earnings from a financial perspective. They beat on a lot of measures. However, the stock was down about 3%, but overall, it seemed to have performed relatively well versus what they outlined last year. Now, the key thing I want to really hone in on is GM's electric vehicle ambitions. As you know, GM is the maker of the Bolt, and this is the cheapest vehicle that they offer, and they've been offering it for a long time. However, for the next few years, they have a lot of plans and some really ambitious targets, and I want to put those targets to the test. So let's start with the near-term ambitions for GM and review some of the things that they're saying, and then see how that stacks up with their long-term ambitions and comparing it to other players. So this is what GM says is in the works for the next 2 quarters for the second half of 2023. They have the Silverado EV work truck coming out, and the production is currently underway. They have the Chevy Blazer EV, which is going to start production this quarter, the Chevy Equinox EV, which is going to start production in the fourth quarter, along with 3 other models in the fourth quarter with the Silverado EV, the BrightDrop Zevo 400, which is their van, and the Cadillac Celestiq, which is their luxury EV that looks like that. So they have 6 models in the works that are going to be brand new to GM in the next 6 months. In addition to that, one of the things that they highlighted about their near-term ambitions is their collaboration, I can't even pronounce it, with Tesla. And this is around the North American charging standard announcement that they made. And what's interesting is that they highlighted this development in their earnings report for their investors, saying how this is going to be a great thing for doubling EV charging access for GM owners. And starting in 2024, I believe GM is going to start making their cars, starting 2025 rather, they're going to start making their cars with Tesla's plug built into the vehicle, which is obviously great for GM owners who want access to Tesla's charging network. Now, that's for the short term. For the long term, this is where some of the numbers start getting real crazy, and this is where I really want to put those numbers to the test and see if this is realistic. Now, this is the summary of 2023 through 2025 KPIs. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator, but really the big thing that I want you to focus on is how they're thinking about electric vehicles. So GM says that they think they can get to $50 billion plus in 2025 in EV revenue alone. They think they can get to 1 million units in North America by 2025. And they think that their EV portfolio can get to mid-single-digit EBIT profit margin in 2025. What that basically means is that they think they can make about 5% profitability net on their EV business. So these are their ambitions. However, is this realistic? 50 billion plus in revenue, 1 million units per year, 0.5% of profitability. Is that real? Is it not real? Let's go ahead and put those numbers in context and see what shakes out. If you're enjoying this content so far, I would love it if you throw me a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this to more people. Thank you so much. And let's start by focusing on the North America performance for GM for electric vehicles. So what they've done today, so we can set a sort of a ground level of where they need to go from here. So in this second quarter, GM delivered about 15.7 thousand EVs in the United States, so 15,700 units. This is a drop quarter over quarter of about 20%-ish, but it is up year over year versus the previous year, Q2. However, it's important to highlight that in that quarter, there was a lot of supply chain complications from COVID. But what's really interesting here is that 93% of GM's 2023 EV sales came from one model alone, and in this case, it's the Bolt EV. What's interesting about the Bolt is that this is a model, it's a real small, compact EV that starts around $25,000. This was initially discontinued early this year, but then GM announced that they're bringing that nameplate back later this year or potentially next year as a more sportier version using the latest battery technology. So what's very interesting is that 93% of their sales today was from a model that they wanted to nix, but now they're like, no, we're good. We're actually going to bring it back. And my guess is it's because it's actually driving a lot of their volume recently. And if they discontinue it altogether, I believe their volume will not look very good unless they did that. Now, it's also very important to remember that GM is introducing 6 new models this year. However, these are going to take a long time to ramp to their full volume figures. And I'm curious to see how these are going to end up in the next couple of years. Now, this is what GM's sales actually looked like for the last 2 years. To kind of give you an idea of how GM has been growing their EV segment, in the first quarter of 2021, it was only the Bolt, and then it had a pretty big recall for their battery. They were having battery fires. So their sales for the Bolt came down to basically zero in the fourth quarter. And then they were able to ramp up their volume again for the year 2022 into the second quarter of 2023. And if you look at their growth since the first quarter of 2021, GM is growing at about 6% per quarter since the first quarter of 21. So basically, if on average they were growing 6% per quarter, they will be able to grow from their Q1 number in 2021 to their Q2 number in 2023. This is where this kind of gets a little crazy because GM is targeting 1 million annual EV capacity in North America by 2025, which we highlighted earlier in the video. So the question becomes, is this realistic? Is this something that can actually be achievable? To put it in a graphical perspective, just how ambitious this is, if we take the first graph that we showed of what the sales they were doing now, this is what it looks like. This is where they need to get at from a quarterly run rate perspective to reach 1 million units by 2025. Because these numbers are quarterly, it basically means they have to do 250,000 units per quarter. And if you times that by 4, that's 1 million units per year to actually reach their targets by 2025. They need a dramatic increase in production to be able to reach those levels. GM would need to grow 22% per quarter starting right now to reach those levels. In another way of thinking about it is that they have to grow their current growth of about 6% by 3.5 times to be able to reach their EV production of 1 million units per year by 2025. Now, to give additional context as to why this is so ambitious, Tesla, which is the biggest automaker of EVs in the world right now, Tesla grew 17% per quarter from 2017 to 2021, and this was right as they launched their Model 3 car through the fastest growth phase that they had through the end of 2021 in Q4, where they had both the Model 3 and the Model Y. So this is their fastest growth that they've really ever had in the history of the company. Tesla was able to grow 17% per quarter on average. And GM is aiming to grow even faster than Tesla from their perspective. So the question becomes, is that realistic? Is that a real thing? Now, the last thing I want to highlight here, and this is kind of a knock on GM, but I think this is why I wanted to make this video, is it's incredibly ambitious. It's incredibly ambitious, and I think we just have to ask: is this really possible? This is a tweet from GM back in November 19th of 2020. Earlier this year, we committed to launching 20 new EV models by 2023. Today, we're excited to announce we've accelerated our development timeline and now plan to launch 30 new EV models globally by 2025. Learn more. However, if we look at what they're launching this year, so this is 2023 now, they have 6 models that they've just announced that are going to be produced this year, and they have 2 more models in play right now with the Lyriq and the Hummer EV, and the Bolt was already there. In reality, GM in total has 8 models, which is far short of their 20 models that they announced back in 2020. And so from my perspective, I think it's important to ask the question, are these real targets? Is this something that's legitimately going to come to play? Or is this more GM trying to rally the troops and say, hey, we have these huge goals. It's okay if we miss, but at least we're going towards that number because this is great for EV growth and it's great for everybody to be able to buy an EV. However, can GM do this? Is this a realistic target from GM? And is this something that they'll actually be able to capitalize on? And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you think GM is going to be able to achieve this? Do you think that they have an advantage because of their size? that they're going to be able to grow faster than, say, a Tesla? And do you think this is a realistic target? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this content, subscribe. I analyze the EV segment almost daily, and this is something that I love to do. So if you want to watch more videos from me, feel free to subscribe. I also have some merch in the description that you can purchase starting in $19.50. These Robots Are Coming shirts, which is something that I'm very passionate about. And lastly, you can also support the channel by purchasing some Athletic Greens, which is a supplement that I use every single day, free travel packs and free vitamin D with your purchase. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was informative and helpful, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.